It's a new day for Star Wars, man. Welcome to the High Republic era. So, if you're not familiar with the High Republic era, it's basically the time period where the Jedi were the 91 to 98 Chicago Bulls. They were in their prime at the height of their powers. There were tens of thousands of Jedi all across the galaxy, and they were virtually unopposed. They had very little threats at this time that they couldn't deal with. Now, I've seen some sites say 200 years, I've seen some sites say around 100 years, but basically, this show, The Acolyte, is set towards the end of the High Republic era, about a century or so before the events of the Phantom Menace. The show is following May, a former Jedi Padawan played by Amanda Stenberg, and her former Jedi Master, presumably Carrie Ann Moss's character, Jedi Master Indara. Although we do see May as a kid in the Jedi Temple being taught by Lee Jung Jae's character, Jedi Master Soul, so they could be subverting our expectations, and maybe Jedi Master Soul is going to be the Jedi Master that defects and joins the Sith instead of Carrie Ann Moss's character. I think that would be an interesting plot point. So my overall thoughts on this first trailer is that I enjoyed it, but I am still cautiously optimistic about the series as a whole. I thought that this first trailer did a great job of establishing the tone of the series. It's supposed to be a darker, more serious series as the Sith are sort of this underdog in this world, and they are on the rise, while the Jedi are already at the height of their power, and they don't know much about this rising Sith threat that is right under their nose. Now, one thing to note is that in the Phantom Menace, Jedi Master Mundi says,
Impossible. The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
which now they do kind of have to disregard that statement in order for the premise of this series to work. But I think that that scene in general was kind of showing the hubris of the Jedi, especially Mundi and Mace Windu as well, is sort of the representation of the bureaucracy of the Jedi and the kind of their hubris and their pride as Jedi masters. That's what that whole scene was supposed to be setting up. So and Mundi in particular, that hubris, because he was one of the first Jedi that succumbed to Order 66 because he was so, kind of prideful and was so trusting of the Jedi Order and the way of things. He didn't even see or foresee or think that the clones could come, and attack him from behind. I thought the score of this trailer and the music did a great job of setting that darker tone as well. The music note that I put in the beginning of this video, for example, really hit for me, and the music in general is really great in this trailer. Star Wars has been kind of up and down since the prequel trilogy. But one thing that they do consistently get right in Star Wars is the music. It's always been great, obviously, in the movies with John Williams' music, and then in the Disney Plus series that we've gotten with The Mandalorian had great music. Whether or not you liked or disliked the Book of Boba Fett, I thought the Book of Boba Fett music was great, especially that Boba Fett theme. I love the Boba Fett theme. The music in Obi-Wan is great as well. I thought that score was great, and then the music in Ahsoka is very beautiful as well. So I think that despite how you feel about Star Wars as a whole, since in this new era that we're in, the music has always been great. So, and once again, the music is great here in this trailer, especially at setting that darker, more serious tone. One thing I wanted to note is that Carrie Ann Moss as a Jedi just works. For those of you that may not know or may be a little bit younger, Carrie Ann Moss played the character Trinity in the Matrix series, and just based off of this trailer, it looks like we're going to be getting more of her awesome martial arts fighting style as she plays Jedi Master Indara in this. I really love that first knife fight in the trailer that we get between May and Jedi Master Indara. It's physical, it's combative, and we really get to see a practical use for the Force push in a fight, which I think the Jedi, I don't know why, but they don't use the Force push a lot in their fights. You would think it's a practical thing to do. If somebody's up close to you, push them to get them off of you. But for some reason, we don't always see that. I think more and more we've been seeing it in the more modern interpretations of Star Wars. But, overall in Star Wars, it's not something that's used a lot, the Force push, in physical fights, fights without lightsabers between Force users. So it's cool to see the Force push being used in this trailer, in that first fight. I appreciated that. And like I said before, I love the music note that hit after she pushed her. I thought that was really great as well. Now, after that fight scene, we get flashes of some shots of the younger Jedi characters in the series, including Charlie Bennett's character, Jedi Knight Yord, who seems to be the leader of this younger mystery solving crew that they have going on here underneath Jedi Master Soul. We also get a shot of Daphne Keene, who is of Logan fame. She is playing the alien Jedi Padawan named Jeki. We also get a cool shot of Kashyyyk and a Wookiee Jedi named Kelnaka. Also, I didn't mention this earlier, but in the first scenes of the trailer in the Jedi Temple, during that training scene that Jedi Master Soul is doing with the younger Padawans, in the background, you can see Jedi Master Venestra Rose, who is played by Rebecca Henderson. She's in the background, kind of creeping in the back there listening. Now, Vernestra Rose, who is also known simply as Vern, she is a character who is much younger and featured prominently in the Light of the Jedi High Republic comic series. So, and she is one of the fan favorites in that series, but she is a lot younger in that series. She's a Jedi Knight. But here in this Acolyte series in live action, she's older now, and she seems to have become a Jedi Master. So it's going to be interesting to see her. This is going to be her first live action appearance, and she's one of the fan favorite characters for fans of that comic series. So it's going to be interesting to see how they interpreted her from the comics into live action. We then get a scene of Jedi Master Soul using a Jedi mind trick to get someone who the captions label the convict to give him some information. So that might be suggesting maybe they're going to go to a jail to free someone, or maybe get some information from this convict that he might have been a defector from the Sith, or know a Sith, or maybe he's a friend of May or something. Then we also get a scene of Jedi Master Soul and May fighting. May, she does one of those flashy, unnecessary spinning jump kicks that a lot of people do in fighting movies, which, Jedi Master Soul easily catches her foot, and then she makes a face like she's surprised, and does another spinning backflip kick to get out of his grasp. But, despite me joking about it, it is cool to see that the fights in this trailer, and seemingly in the series, are going to be more physical, more combative, and more martial arts focused. That is cool to see. Despite, the unnecessary flipping and spinning. It always is funny to see that when people are flipping and spinning, but that is a Star Wars thing. A lot of people flip and spin in Star Wars, like that one scene where, Palpatine says it's treason then, and flips and spins.
It's treason, then.
So, it is a Star Wars thing to jump and spin and flip for no reason. After that scene, we get a better shot of Jedi Master Venestra Rose's character, as well as a quick shot of Manny Jacinto's character named Kamir, and then a shot of a few more Jedi as well. Then after that, we get another fight scene between May and Carrie-Anne Moss's Jedi Master Indara, where Jedi Master Indara quickly uses the Force to hold back a knife that May has lunged at her. I think I really like this shot because it's another practical use of the Force by a Force user. I always love those scenes where they're not using lightsabers and they're just using the Force to fight. Like I said earlier with the Force push, it's another practical way to use the Force to defend yourself. I love scenes like that. The next scene we get is a cool shot of a character named Mother Anissa, who is described by the Star Wars website as the leader of a coven of witches, and she's played by Jodie Turner-Smith. Now, according to the official Star Wars website, they aren't labeling her as a Night Sister or one of the witches of Dathomir, which is interesting because usually the witches we see in Star Wars properties are the Night Sisters, and the witches of Dathomir. So it's interesting to see a witch character that's not related to those to the established witches that we have in the Star Wars universe. Now, I am interested to see if maybe they left that out to have it be kind of a surprise, or maybe they're tangentially related, like very loosely related, or if they're just not related at all, and this is just a separate coven of force using witches that doesn't have anything to do with the Night Sisters or the witches of Dathomir, because they like to lean heavily on stuff that's known. But the good thing about this series is that it's in the High Republic era, the end of the High Republic era, of course, but the High Republic era, so it doesn't have to be connected to anything we already know. So it would be cool to see if this is just, a separate coven of force using witches that's not related to the Night Sisters or the Dathomir, the witches of Dathomir, even though the Night Sisters and the witches of Dathomir are cool characters, and I'd like to see more lore on them. Having them be separate in this series, I think, is a good thing. To have this series be separated as much as it possibly can from the from existing Star Wars canon is a good thing, because we need that in Star Wars. We need to get away from the Skywalker saga, I think, and tell more stories. So many more stories to tell. It's time to get away from it. But that's one thing that people have been saying about this trailer as well, is that there's no Yoda in the trailer, which again, to my point earlier, I think even though Yoda would have been present in this time period, because it's only 100 years or so before the Phantom Menace, so Yoda would have been around then. Also Yaddle as well. I think it's good that they didn't show them, even if they are in the series. I think it's good that they don't show them, because we need to establish that this is separate from everything about Star Wars. To people that aren't, book readers or comic readers or don't know much about the High Republic, this is a different era, and we need to establish that. So I think this trailer also did a good job establishing that, hey, this is different from what you've seen before for the casual Star Wars fan. I think they did a good job at that. Now, Mother Anastasia, I think I said Mother Anessa before. it's spelled Mother Anastasia. She says this isn't about good or bad. This is about power and who is allowed to use it. So we get kind of a small look at her motivations here, and I really like her character design. And the face paint as well. Very witchy. The Star Wars witches always have some sort of face paint or some sort of thing on their face. So even though it's not connected to the witches of Death, the witches before, or the Night Sisters or the witches of Dathomir, it is cool to see them have the face paint still. But I think that this point that she makes in the trailer, which is one of the few lines of dialogue in the trailer, it gives us a hint to one of the plot points of the series as well. In the High Republic era, like I said before, the Jedi are in their prime, and they essentially reign unopposed. So they're the ultimate power in the galaxy, and the Sith have been quietly rising behind their backs. And we know that certain Sith, like Darth Plagueis and later Chancellor Palpatine, have been plotting and scheming for years and years behind their backs to make their move to rise to power. Speaking of Plagueis, there have been rumors that we could see him in this series, because the timeline would match up, and it would make sense for him to be in the series. And also it would fit given the premise of the series as well, the rising of the Sith in the end of the High Republic era. Now, I personally really hope we get to see him, and I did say earlier that I want this to be established that it's separate from anything we've seen before, but I don't think Darth Plagueis being in this would go against that, because we haven't actually seen Darth Plagueis. Darth Plagueis was only mentioned in a story from Chancellor Palpatine in the prequels. We don't actually ever see him. So if we saw Darth Plagueis, it's disconnected enough from what we've seen before that you don't go, oh yeah, that's so and so. But you do go, I remember that person being mentioned. But it's still a completely different character that you can do what you can do, well, not whatever you want, because he's been established in books and whatnot. Even though the legends aren't canon anymore technically. So I guess they can do whatever they want with the character to a point, because they've said the legends books are not canon technically. But he's not beholden to a portrayal from movies, because we haven't seen him in the movies. So I think it would be cool to have Darth Plagueis be, the sort of Sith, the end boss, if you will, of the series, sort of that Sith that's been pulling everything behind the strings. And they wouldn't have to have Palpatine in this series because it's 100 years before, so Palpatine wouldn't be alive unless in the prequels he's 120 or something, which I guess he could be. He doesn't look that old, but maybe he found a way to age slower a little bit. But yeah, so they don't have to have Palpatine in the series, but I think that having Darth Plagueis in the series would be a benefit to it, and help kind of expand the lore out a little bit more as well. Speaking of Darth Plagueis and Sith Lords, the last scene of the trailer is the Jedi in a forest looking on as they see a red lightsaber cut through the trees and return to the hand of an unknown Sith. We don't get to see their face, just their hand, and the lightsaber return to it. Then the Jedi group, they all ignite their lightsabers in a really cool shot, and they charge to attack. That's one good thing about the High Republic era, is that there's a lot more Jedi than we usually see in live action. In the Skywalker era, if you want to call it that, the prequels, the main movies, and then the original trilogy, and then the sequels, that whole era is post, kind of, it's the end of the fall and then the fall of the Jedi. So there aren't that many Jedi because Order 66 happens and they all get killed, and then they're trying to rise back up, but it's only Luke, and then obviously later on Rey. So there's not as many Jedi in the universe. But in the High Republic era, there's so many more Jedi. So one of the cool things about this series is that we're going to get to see way more Jedi, way more variety of Jedi, lots of lightsaber scenes, hopefully, and lots of cool Force fighting scenes, like the few scenes we've seen in the trailer as well. So that's one cool thing, and that was a cool shot, I thought, here at the end of the trailer, all of them igniting their lightsabers, sort of like the Avengers going to charge in that scene in Avengers Age of Ultron, where they all jump in slow motion. It was kind of like that scene. And then they all go to charge to attack this unknown Sith threat, but they're blown back by a powerful force push from the unseen Sith, and the trailer ends on an awesome note. And that was the end of the trailer. Like I said earlier, I thought that this trailer did a good job of establishing the tone of the series, and I really hope that this series remains darker and more of a mystery action thriller, and doesn't devolve into the silliness that a lot of the more recent Star Wars projects have often found themselves in. We get a really good trailer. The first couple episodes are super, deep and serious, and then it kind of devolves into that, modern Star Wars silliness, and just it's just been so pedantic. I really hope that this keeps that tone, keeps that seriousness, and really takes advantage of the fact that we're in a new era, so we don't have to tell the same stories, the same Skywalker story. I love Luke Skywalker, I love Darth Vader, but we need to move on. It's time to move on. And so I'm hoping that they really take advantage of that here in this story that is set in the High Republic era. But let me know your thoughts on the trailer down in the comments below. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel for more comic book and pop culture talk. And I will see y'all another day.